guys how to make a palazzo pant, and to do that you might need about 2 yards of fabric or 2.5 yards of fabric depending on your size. And also people have been asking me for my Instagram page because they want to send me styles to show them, like tutorials to make. So if you're among those and you want to send me maybe the styles that you've made for me to see, or you also want to send me a style recommendation to make, my Instagram handle is right on my page. You just have to click on it and then it will take you directly to my page. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to do is to fold your fabric into two. So as you can see, I've folded this into two, and the width I have here is basically my hip measurement plus my hip measurement divided by 4 plus extra like 4 or 5 inches. So that's the width of this here. So my hip measurement is 48, and then my hip measurement 48 divided by 4, that's 12, and I have extra about 1 2 3 4 5 extra 5 inches here. That's why my fabric is folded. 16 is what I have here. So the next thing you're going to do is to go up here. So from here you're going to put your waist to your hip measurement. My waist to hip is at 10, but my waist to my crotch is 12. So I'm going to mark that here. And then the next thing so basically guys, the 3 lines I have here, the first one here is my hip line, which is your waist to your hip. The second one I have here is my crotch line, and then the third one I have here is my thigh line, which is normally like 3 inches below your crotch line. So my waist to my hip, my waist to my crotch, my waist to my thigh. That's the 3 lines I have here. So the next thing you're going to do now is start putting your measurement. So the first thing you're going to do is to come to your hip line, and you're going to divide your hip measurement by 4. So my hip measurement divided by 4 is going to be 12, because my hip is 48 divided by 12, that's 4. And then I'm going to add extra 1 inch to it for seam allowance. So that's going to be 13. I'm going to mark that here. So I'm going to mark it in a straight line all the way up, and mark it down to your crotch line also. So I'm going to extend that 13 down to this line here, and then extend it up to the waist too. So guys, after that you're going to extend that line all the way up, and then you're going to divide the measurement you have here on your hip line. You're going to divide it by 4. So if you have 12, you divide it by 4. If you have 13, divide it by 4. Whatever you get, that's going to be the extension of your crotch here. That's going to be the extension of the distance of your crotch here. And then after that, you're going to give it a curve, right? You're going to give it a curve this way. So you see, I've given mine a curve. So this is going to be my crotch line in front. And then another thing is you're going to do is to go up here, and then you're going to add in your zip allowance for your zip. So it depends on the length of the zip you're using. This is the zip I'm going to be using. So I'm going to make it come down all the way to this point. So I'm going to use about 7 inches. So this part here will be the facing for my zip, the flyer for my zip. And then the next thing you're going to do now is start from this line, this straight line that you have here. You're going to go in and put in your waist measurement. So my waist measurement is 36 divided by 4, that's going to be 9. I'm going to add 2 inches to it, 1 inch of seam allowance, 1 inch of my darting. So that's going to be 11. So your waist measurement divided by 4, you're going to add 2 inches to it. So this line is going to be your marking. That's where you're going to put in the marking, is where you're going to start. So right from this line, so that's 11 for me. I'm now going to mark this 11 and connect it to my hip. So I'm going to straighten it down to my hip, right? So guys, normally if you want, you can just go ahead and just cut from this line down, and then you're going to cut all the way out this point and then down. If you want the leg of your pant to be just straight like this, but if you want to narrow it a little bit, or you want it tighter at your thigh, what you can do is to find the center of this your hip line. So find the center of your hip line. So for me, my hip line is 13. Half of that 13 is going to be about 6.5, right? Somewhere here, half of this here. So I'm going to extend this half line all the way down to my thigh line. So just mark it down. This is if you want the trouser to be tight at your thigh and then flay out at the end. Then you're going to come down and narrow it a little bit. And then what you're going to do is you're going to check your thigh measurement. Measure the uppermost part of your thigh divided by 2. So whatever you get, let's say if your tie is like 20, you're going to divide it by 2 and add 1. So that will be 20 divided by 2 is going to be 10. If you add 1 to it, it's going to be 11, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to, I'm just using this for as an example. That 11, you're going to find half of 11. It's going to be somewhere like it's going to be half of 11 is going to be about 5.5, right? So you're going to fold your tape at that 5.5 and then put it at this point here. Make that 5.5 to come to this center, this line that you made that is half of your hip that you extended down to your thigh. Put it there, and then you're going to mark that half of it on this side and then half of it on this side, and then that way you're going to extend it, if that makes any sense. So you're going to bring it down that way and then connect it this way to give you a curve. And then, like, if you want it tight at your thigh and then it flares out, so after that you're going to just connect it down using that measurement all the way down. But if you don't want it that way, just go ahead and cut yours straight and just cut everything out. So I'm just going to cut everything out because I want mine to be flared all the way down. So guys, the next thing you're going to do is to fold it this way. I'm going to fold this part here and just to put in my darts. So to put in your dart, you're going to divide your nipple to nipple measurement by 2. So for me, that's my nipple to nipple measurement is 8. I'm dividing it by 2. That's going to be 4. So at this point, that's where my dart is going to come in, right? And then I'm going to come down. Your dart is going to stop 2 inches before your hip line. That means my dart to come down to 8 inches because my hip line is at 10. So on this point here, I'm going to mark a straight line all the way up to my waist and then put half an inch on this side, and then that's how you're going to blend it in. So this is now my dart for the waist. This is my dart here. I'm going to notch it so I can extend it to the, because there are 2 patterns to the front, right? I've notched it here, so I know this is where my dart is. So using this front panel, I'm going to fold this down so I can use this here to trace out my back panel. So guys, I know you might be thinking I've not said anything about the length. The length depends on you, what you want to use for your length. So mine, because this is a Ankara fabric, is not that long, so I'm just using the whole thing until when I wear it I can decide when to cut it. But if you want and you're making it for someone, all you can do is as you're putting in this measurement, your waist, your hip line, your thigh line, whatever, your crotch line, you can also go ahead at that same point and put in your, let's say you want the pant to be 40 inches, right? Then you're going to use 2 inches of seam allowance. So that's it here. You're going to put that one into. So you know that you're going to cut it off at somewhere here. So for me, I'm yet to decide where to cut mine off. So that's why I'm just leaving it this way. So with this now, let's go ahead and trace the back panel. So guys, now we're going to trace the back panel. So to trace the back panel, you're going to measure whatever you got from your crotch if you're on the bigger side. So for me, I got from the front crotch, right? So your front crotch, that distance of that curve that you had then, so you're going to take it and have that distance at the top of your pant. But if you're more on the small or medium size, just use 2 inches, it will fit. So this is just because of the butt at the back, so you need to have the top part to be bigger. So that's why you need the top part to be longer, not bigger. So you need to extend it. So I'm going to make sure I have about 3 inches at the top. If I don't have it, I'm going to move it down a little bit more so that I can accommodate that 3 inches at the top. And then the next thing you're going to do is to add about 2.5 extension from this point of where, so you see this is where my front, the pant top, the crotch of my front pant stops. So from this point, make sure you have about 2 inches there, 2.5 inches there, sorry. So you see I have mine now. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go up to the top part of your pant here. So guys, if you look closely, you will see that this is where the curve of my waist is. This is the center part of the back, where you see this is also the center part of my front, where my zip placket, zip fold will come in. But you see it's folded now. So what you're going to do is at this point here, you're going to come in 2 inches, right? Come in 2 inches from this point. You see where my fold is. I came in 2 inches from that point. That's it here. And then after that 2 inches, you see I already have that 2 inches at the top part here. What you're going to do is you subtract 2 inches here, but then you bring back that 2 inches. Take it away from this end, but then extend this at this point again. Take 2 inches on this straight line where your waist is, you see. I have 2 inches again, added back to this point. You see, I took away 2 inches from this part I brought back that 2 inches. I added it on this straight line of my waist, my front waistline. Now I'm going to connect the two of them together. I'm going to connect from these 3 inches I went up by. I'm going to put it down back to this point here. I'm going to just connect it in a straight line all the way to this top here, and then blend it down back to this point, you see. And then what you're going to do is to come down to your hip line, add 1 inch there, 1 inch here, add 1 inch again here, just add 1 inch all the way to the end, and then you're going to just go ahead and connect it to this part. You see, I've connected it to that 2 inches that I marked before, and then you're going to connect it all the way down. Make sure you have that 2 inches extension all the way to the end. And then for the back crotch, what you're going to do is this now here you're going to extend it. So I'm going to now put this here. This is now my new back. You're going to just connect it all the way. So you see, this is now my new back crotch. You see my crotch at the back is longer now. So this is what it looks like at this point. So this is my back crotch. And then what you're going, after that extension that you've already made here, you're going to just blend this in. You're going to blend this in this way. Just blend it into this line. It doesn't matter if you're going for that big, like you want the end of your pant to be really big, you can just go ahead and also cut this one straight. But I don't want it that big, so I'm just going to blend it into the line here. So I'm just going to just try and blend this crotch in this way. So you see, just blend it right in. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out, but if you want, you can just use that same straight line too. So guys, the only place you added 2 inches is that 2 inches you took away from the hip here and you brought it back here. The rest is just 1 inch is what you're adding at this line here. You see, just 1 inch. The only 2 inches is just here, and then you blend it into the 1 inch distance from this your front panel on the hip line, on the waistline. That's how I'm going to do it. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out mine all the way out. So guys, now you see, after cutting everything out, I've traced out all the way from this part to the back of my pant. And if you see, if I take this part now and pull it back into this here, everything is equal. You see, everything is equal now. If I pull it back, everything is, that's why I said to add that 1 inch at this side here and just blend in the rest. But if you pull it back, everything rhymes in. So you see, your hip is still the same size and that. So that's basically how you're going to cut it. So now I'm going to first go ahead and put my dart in front and my dart at the back. And then after putting my dart, I'm also going to go ahead and put in my zip in front. So guys, now we're going to talk about how to do the pockets, because you're going to do it before you put in your dart. So I just cut out fabric that I will need, and then this is it here. So this fabric is folded, but I'm going to split it because it's one for each side. And then I also have a lining because this is going to be the inner pocket, and then this is going to be the one that will replace the waist. So I already have a detailed tutorial on how to put in this type of pocket, but I'm just going to run through it again. So you see, what I cut here is exactly like from my waist to almost my crotch line. Depending on how deep you want your pocket to be, you can go smaller. You can make your waist to your hip line, which will be better. And then that's the length of the fabric that I just slip under this now. And then what you're going to do is you're going to come up here by about maybe 4 inches away from the end, and then you're going to come down like 6 inches down from the waist. And then you're going to check if your hand can fit inside of this. If your hand can fit in, then that's okay. So for me, my hand can fit in at this point. I'm using 7 inches, but I'm going to go up and make it 6.5. Then you're going to connect these two lines together. So guys, now I'm going to chip this off, but I'm not going to chip it off on all my fabrics. This fabric at the bottom here was cut in a square, but I placed it under here and just shaped it in form of my waist. It was cut, I just shaped it in form of my waist because when I chip this off now, the one on the pants, this piece of fabric will replace my waist size. So that's why before you cut this off, you have to go ahead, before you cut this off, go ahead and use another fabric that you want to use to replace the hip back, and just shape it in form of your waist, like your waist measurement, because as you can see, this is curved and then straight down here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out and also cut off the same thing on my lining. So guys, I've chipped this off and also chipped it off in the lining. This is going to be my inner pocket. This will not be visible when I'm done. I like to use the lining. You can use fabric for your inner pocket, but I just like to use lining because it hides, it makes it less bulky. Imagine using this fabric with starch, double it, like almost triple layer of it, it will be bulky. So that's why I like to at least reduce the bulk by using a lighter fabric like this lining. So I'm going to sew this in and flip it in. So guys, as you can see, I've finished one side of the pocket. So basically you're going to attach this here, right side facing each other, and then when you're done, you flip it this way, top stitch it, and then you have something like this. Now you're going to take the other part of it and place it back. So now you've replaced what you cut out, and that's why you have two patterns here that will be the pocket. So this now is your pocket. So you use this one here, you're going to go back in here and close up this top part, close up the side, and then you're going to put your back panel on top to close up everything. But before that, I'm going to show you guys how to do the zip. I already have a separate video also on how to do the zip, so I'm just going to run through this one too. So you're going to close up that seam that you have that you had at the center, and then you're going to have this here, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to stitch this all the way to the top, and then you're going to go ahead, open this up, open it up in this way into two, and then you take the zip that you're going to be using, you're going to open up that zip and then place it this way facing. So you see the opening of this is how you close the zip, right? This is the right side of the zip. You're going to face it inside this way, facing the center of this here, and then you're going to stitch it. So that's why I said to open it, that it will help you sew it down better. So you see, you're going to stitch down one side of it. So you're going to go ahead, you're going to leave this soft part out. It's going to enter into your band, the band of the pant. So you're going to open this up and sew it on one sheet of this paper here. So you see just one of this. So go ahead and make a stitch this way. So guys, now that it's sewed down on this sheet, if you want, before you do that, also fold this into two this way and sew it so that you can reduce the amount of fabric you have. Like instead of sewing it plainly on this and then cutting this excess off on one side, you can just fold this so that you can hide this rough end. Fold it this way and sew it. So after sewing it first, you have something that looks like this at the moment, right? You have something that looks like this. So what you're going to do is you're going to flip your top, open it up this way. So everything is open this way, and then what you're going to do is you're going to move that zip to one side. You're just going to take it and move it to the other side, right? So you see, if I open this now, my zip is now on this side. So you're going to shift it to the other side, and then once you shift it to the other side, you see how it is. It's no longer at the center. I moved it this way. I moved it to this direction. My zip is no longer at the, if it was at the center, you see, this is where my stitch is, this is the zip. But now I just shifted it to this part. And now I'm going to just take a top stitch and stitch it all the way down, cross over to this part. So you're going to go ahead and top stitch it this way, and then go up this way. After that, you're going to lose this stitch that you have at the center, and that's basically how you put in your zip. You go ahead, close up your back seam and attach it, and then we'll come back and put in the band. I've finished everything. My zip for the waist is done. Everything is done. So now I'm going to go ahead and put in my band. I've closed up my side seam, my pants is done. Go ahead and measure around your waist, and you make sure that your waist can fit in, and then you're going to cut out your band. Just cut out enough, maybe your waist measurement, but add like about 6 extra inches to it, because for me, it depends on how you want to add your band. People keep asking me how to add the band. It's just like, it depends on you how you want to add it. You can see, okay, you can, the width you will cut might be, if I open this up now, you can use width of 5 inches, right? If you want your band to be 2 inches long this way, use 5 inches and then iron in your stay. When you fold 5 inches into 2, you're going to have 2.5 here, 2.5 here, and then you tuck in that extra 0.5 in, so you have a like 0.5 in between to use it to tuck in your the band. So, but for me, what I'm going to be using here, since I don't have the stay, I folded my fabric, so I have about 7.5, almost 8 inches here. I folded it in, and then I made sure that I have, after folding it, I folded enough just to leave me with 2 inches width here after the fold. So you see, all my excess fabric will now serve as the stay since I don't have the stay. So what you're going to do now is, Like, I'm going to start with one side of my zip. Make sure that your waist is the measurement you need. You've added your back dart, your front dart, your zip, your band, everything. You go ahead and you start putting it. Take this here this way, put this in between, but you're going to leave excess at the end here, so that when you're done, you can turn this around and sew it down. If you don't want to use this method, you see what I'm doing here? I open this up, put this in between, tucking it in with like half an inch, and then you're going to keep sewing on top of it, even up to your pocket part. You're going to sew on top of it. You can go ahead and just pin it down this way, all the way around to the other side. But I've gone ahead to pin my band down all the way, so as I'm sewing it, I'll be opening up the pin that I used to pin it down. Another method to use is, you can go ahead, if you don't want, when you put this in, to fold the excess, what you can do is to flip it this way, close it up ahead of time. Like, go ahead and sew this part close with like half an inch, so that when you tuck it out this way, it will look like a square this way, right? It will look something like this, and then you fix it in here and sew it all the way around. That's basically how to attach the band